Baruch Aboim Hashem Egan Shir Tev the cover to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Yakov Zev Smith Shlita on the topic of priorities in Torah and Mitzvos. Whoever like to have a great discussion sponsoring a shir, call Egan Shir Torah 718-851-8651.
Today, Baruch Hashem, we see a lot of learning going on before davening, after davening, during davening, and of course the question that comes up is there's a group or even a yachid that's learning in the back or behind the mechitza, or upstairs or downstairs, and they hear Dvarim Shebekdusha, they hear Kaddish, they hear Kedusha being said. Do you have to interrupt the learning to answer Dvarim Shebekdusha? What's probably a more challenging question, we see today there are shiurim that are being given, and collectors come to raise money. Someone gives a shir, he told me he doesn't know why all the collectors come during learning, not during davening. So I told him, I know the answer's simple. If you notice during davening, when collectors come, people start getting very involved in their davening as if they're Milish Mein Esra. You know, I always say it's a school for a better davening, have collectors come to shul. Everybody's so involved, so they don't see the collectors during davening. But during learning, you know, you're sitting there. But anyhow, this is a question that a Maggid Shir wanted to know if he can make a takana, no collecting during the shir. He finds it very distracting. But then again, the mitzvah tzedakah is the mitzvah tzedakah. This past summer, I don't know if you might remember it, if you were in the mountains, we had, after Tisha B'Av, it was raining almost every night. It was supposed to rain the entire week. And there was no Kiddush Levana. It was Wednesday night, and I think the last night was Thursday, but Wednesday night it was, I was in a Besmedj with a few hundred B'nai Torah learning, and around 9:20, like around 10 minutes before the end of night Seder, someone came in and clapped Kiddush Levana. First, it seemed like for a minute or two the Levana appeared, and the Besmedj emptied out, and 400 B'nai Torah were learning 1 minute, the next minute they're making Kiddush Levana. And someone was Ma'ira, that's a bittul Torah of Rabbim. Kiddush Levana, so have betachin, you could do it today, tomorrow. So that started me thinking that we have to go through this sugya, the concept of Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam Mitzad Echad. But then again, there are mitzvahs that we have to do. And are there any priorities? You know, I always say that when you're young, the nisayon in life is, will you do the right thing? Will you daven? Will you learn? When you get older, the nisayon is, what's the right thing? You know, do you go to a chasana? Do you miss yashir? Do you continue learning? Ignore the Davar Shebekdusha? And this is one sugya that you see b'chush, this challenge. What's the right thing? You want to do the right thing. You're looking for the emes. What's the right thing? Juggling Torah and other mitzvahs. So Pashtis, this should be a Beferish Mishnah that we can't forget because we say it every morning. The Mishnah in beginning of Peah enumerates different mitzvahs, and the Mishnah concludes, V'salma Torah Keneged Kulam. In other words, Talmud Torah is more chashuv, Talmud Torah outweighs all mitzvahs. If you have any doubts about how far that goes, you look in the Rishalmi in the beginning of Peah, it's the Daf Gimel Amud Beis and the Standard Prince. Afilu kol mitzvah yiseh shel Torah. If you put all the mitzvahs, all Taryab, 612 mitzvahs on one side, Einam shava l'dava echad min ha-Torah. One word of Torah outweighs all other mitzvahs. That's what it means, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. And that's why you look in the Goyin, in his Pirish, on that Mishnah in Shnois Eliyahu, he says, why did the Tana have to tell us Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam? L'chara, that's a question of schar, that's the Rebbeinu Shlomo's business, it's not negeah for us. Zok the Goyin, v'zel l'shayin kotshei. V'noket hatana, hod ein Talmud Torah, this concept, l'hoira is shetzorech ha'adam ma'oid l'chabe b'satayra. The Goyin never repeated words, but here he repeated it, ma'oid, a person has to have an excessive love for Torah. Why? Pashut. Because you take all the mitzvahs on one side, and one var Torah outweighs. And therefore, when a person is faced with a challenge, what to do, Torah or mitzvahs, avada, he should learn Torah first. Because even one word Torah is Keneged Kulam. Certainly, a person learns for an hour. Don't forget the Chavetz Chaim, in the Sefer Chavetz Chaim makes a cheshbon that the average person could say 200 words in a minute. So 200 words of Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam in a minute. And what's an hour? And what's 2 hours? And 3 hours? But the point is, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam is a very real currency by Borei Olam. And then you could understand the Gemara in Megillah Daf Tezayin, where the Gemara says, Godel Talmud Torah, Yoisem Yatzalas Nefashos. We learned it out from Mordechai as we recall. Talmud Torah is bigger than Hatzalah. Now, even though Kol HaMatzil Nefesh Achas MiYisrael Kilukayim Olam Molei, and of course a person that is able to save a life has to run and stop learning to save a life. But as the Taz in the end of Reish and Aleph explains, Avad you have to stop learning for Hatzalas Nefashos. But when a person doesn't have to go on Hatzalah, he has to realize what Torah is. And if someone else could go on Hatzalah and he could stay learning, Gadol Talmud Torah Yoisem Yatzalas Nefashos. Rabbi Aaron used to say, maybe I guess that adds to it, he says a person that learns Torah is the biggest Hatzalas Nefashos. He's the national security of Klal Yisrael. And this explains the next Gemara in Megillah Daf Tezayin. Gadol Talmud Torah Yoisem Mikibud Aveim. Gemara learns it from Yaakov Avinu that as great as Kibbud Av is, in fact the same Yishalmi says Kibbud Av is Chamura Shebechamurais, but Talmud Torah is still greater. And then you could understand why Chazal were very focused on what's called Bittul Torah. The Ramah in Reish Memvav Siv Chafei quotes a Gemara, Sanhedrin, if someone is able to learn and he doesn't learn, that's Kidvar Hashem Baza. It's not just Bittul Torah, it's a bizayon. You could gather these gems, these diamonds. You could gather a Var Torah that's Keneged Kulam and you don't. So that's the biggest bizayon if you don't learn when you're able to learn. But in Yanenu, we see a different form of, quote, Bittul Torah. Imagine the following Shaila. There's an Olam learning, a yeshiva learning. It's Motzai Shabbos. They heard Havdalah, but they didn't yet make the bracha of Ner. They didn't have a fire, so they didn't make the bracha of Ner. In the middle of Seder, someone comes and brings a Ner, and now you have to make the bracha of Bayrei Meirei Eish. So the Gemara in Brachas Nun Gimel has a Shaila how to do it. Zok Beis Hillel, let one person make the bracha of Meirei Eish, and I'll be mighty the entire tzibah. Al Tzroivam Hadras Melech. No, fair enough, makes sense. Beis Shammai says, no, each one makes their own bracha. Not Roiv Am. What's wrong with Roiv Am? Zok the Gemara, Bittul Beis HaMedrash. Like it sounds like Bittul Torah. Where's the Bittul Torah? We're listening to the bracha of Ner, we're saying Amen, and back to the Gemara. So you look at Rabbeinu Yoin on that Gemara, he says, the Davar Nifla Moed. The Cheshbon is Pashut. If I make the bracha of Bayrei Meirei Eish, it's 9 words. So I finish the 9 words, I'm back in the Gemara. But if someone, the Gabi makes the bracha, I have to listen to all 9 words and also say Amen. The word Amen, I'm not going to say Bittul Torah Chasam, it's a mitzvah. But that could be avoided. That's the Bittul Beis Medrash. 1 word, a word that's a chiyah. But if you could avoid it, that's Bittul Beis Medrash. But the truth is, it's not such a chiddush. Because that word of Torah that you could learn instead of Amen is Keneged all mitzvahs. That is Keneged Taryab mitzvahs. In Torah, there's no such thing as just 1 word. 1 word is a Hain Rav, is an estimable value. But we see a different halacha about the extent of this Bittul Torah. There's a minig Yisrael today, and it's interesting, even the Goyim will have this minig, that when someone sneezes, we say, Gesundheit, Asusa, bless you in English, La Briut, I think in Eretz Yisrael. This is a Yiddish minig, this is a Chazal. In Pirkei Eliezer, Perik Nun Beis, it's recorded that in the way it always was, that a person lived his years, and they lived a long time in the olden days, and he sneezed and he died. He was never sick. Yaakov Avinu asked from Bayrei Olam that a person should have time to prepare. He should leave a tzavah, prepare for that big awesome day. So the Baruch Shalom gave him the concept of a sickness, chayli. And after Yaakov's bakasha was fulfilled, something new happened. A person sneezed and he survived. Usually in the olden days he sneezed and he died. That was Misa, sneeze. But after Yaakov asked for chayli, a person sneezed and didn't die. Sagt der Pirkei Eliezer, Levikachayev Adam Loima Batishasai Lechayim. That was the minig, and that is the minig of saying Gesundheit, Asusa. Sagt die Gemara in Brachis Nun Gimel, a person should not say Asusa during learning. Now, even though it's an Inyan, it's brought in Gemara, but that's considered Bittul Torah. You're learning, you're doing something more important. And the Ramah in Reish Mem Vav Yud Zayin makes a point of quoting this. The point is that Asus is important and Amen is important, but if it can be avoided, the most important word is the Devar Torah. And now you can understand a little more. The Mishnah in Avos Perigimel Mishnah Zayin, Hamhalech Baderach V'Shoina, he's learning. He's going on the road, he's traveling, but he's learning. Lech Baderach, Umafsik mi Mishnasei V'Oimam Ana Ilan Zeh, Maila Levakasav Ki'ilu Mischayev B'Nafshay. Now the emphasis is he's not battling. He's praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ma'ana Ilan Zeh, but he could do more for his time. He could continue learning. Now, of course, we should not get nervous from this, or scared, or frightening, or overwhelmed, or what's going to be? Get excited and anxious. We have an opportunity to learn a Var Torah that's Keneged Kula. Now, it reminds me of the Shach in the beginning of Reish Mem Vav. The Gemara says that really Talmud Torah, you could be Yaitze with Krishma of Shachris and Arbis, but don't tell an Amar it's this. Because then he'll just say Krishma, Shachris, and Arbis, and that's it. Yet you look in the Ramah brings the halacha that you Yaitze Talmud Torah with Krishma, Shachris, and Arbis. Frag the Shach, why the Ramah bring it if the Gemara says not to publicize it? Zok the Shach, because there's another sheet in the Gemara, Rava says, Adarabah. Go out and be mefarsim that you yaitze Talmud Torah even with Krishma. Because then the Amarats will say, what? Even Krishma is Keneged Kulam? Even something as little as Krishma is Keneged Kulam? Look what Torah is. He'll be so inspired to the greatness of Torah, he'll learn more and more and more and more. So when we hear all about Talmud Torah, it should excite us. That's what Torah is. I'm going to do it more and more. All of our shaylas should be very easy to decide. Kiddush Levana versus Talmud Torah. Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. Answering Davish V'Kedusha. What's the shayla? Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. Giving tzedakah during learning. Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. But this is absolutely not true, because there's something that's as important, if not more important than learning, and that's called living Torah. That's called halacha l'maisa, living Torah. What does that mean? Like the Mishnah says in Avos, Perik Aleph, Mishnah Yud Zayin, Loi ha-medrash hu ha'ika ela ha-maisa. Torah, besides being an end for itself, every word Torah is the ultimate mitzvah of all mitzvahs, but Torah is almanas la'asais. Torah makes us better people. You know, the Yishalmi says in Brachis, Perik Aleph, Mishnah Beis, Haloyim shlei lasais, noyach loy ili nefcha shel yosei al panav v'layotza la'avir ha'olam. If someone learns Torah day and night, he's kulei Torah, literally, but doesn't do any mitzvahs, it's better he shouldn't have been born. Why? Because not only he's not learning properly, he's not living properly. That's not Ratzon Hashem. The Gemara says in Kedushin Daf Mem Amud Beis, Talmud Gadol Shemevi L'Dei Ma'isa. You learn a lot and you do a lot of mitzvahs. There's an unbelievable shtickle in Steipel and Kilas Yaakov Brachis Tezvav. If you want to have an Einik Shabbos on Sunday, take it out and learn it today if you have a chance. The Steipler has a better understanding of the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, but one of the gems that he says, I'll share with you. The question the Shalmi asks is, why don't we say when someone's learning, he's part of a mitzvahs, because Oisik b'Torah, Oisik b'mitzvahs is part of a mitzvahs. Says the Yishalmi, says the disciple, the Ikka Chavivas Talmud Torah, because Talmud Meivil de Maisa. And therefore, Haloyim et Shaloyim Anas Lasa is Havigiroyim Beguf Mitzvahs Talmud Torah. It's a chesaron in the chefts of Torah if someone learns and doesn't do mitzvahs. A chesaron in the kiyama mitzvah is a chesaron in the gufa mitzvah Talmud Torah. Says the Steipler, Oy Bazoi, if someone's learning, he's not doing mitzvahs, he's not learning. You can't say Isaac b'mitzvah, potem and a mitzvah, because it's not a mitzvah. If I would say that, you would think, what am I, crazy? How could I say I'm learning Yom V'Layla and it's not a mitzvah? Isn't that a bezoyin of Torah to say that? But the Steipler, gut verstanden. The biggest bezoyin of Torah is when someone doesn't have time for mitzvahs, doesn't have time for someone else, doesn't have time for a chesed. The biggest chasaron in Torah is when someone doesn't have time for a mitzvah. And the Steipler was able to say that learning Shalei Manas Lasais is a chasaron in Limud Torah. It's not Isaac b'mitzvah. The biggest kavanah Torah is when we understand that Torah makes us better people. And it's not a chas v'shalom, a subject, it's not a chachma, it's the Torah's Elokim that makes us better people. So we have to learn Yom V'Layla, but have to have time for Torah, for mitzvahs, and for chesed, and everything else. And then you can understand other Gemaras. The Gemara says in Ksubas Yud Zayin, Mevatlan Talmud Torah, Laitzah Sames, Ulachnosas Kala. You have to go to Chassid, you have to go, we shouldn't have to go, but you have to go to Levayis. You understand, the Gemara says in Shabbos that Yud Rav saw Rav Hamnuna that was being Meirich in Tefillah. So he asked him, Manichin Chayi Oilam V'oiskim B'Chayi Isha? Torah is Nitzchias. So you're stopping to learn for davening? V'husava, Zman Tefillah L'chud, Zman Torah L'chud. There has to be a time and place for everything. Or consider this Gemara in Kedushin, Namalef is Shabbos Kuf Yates. The Gemara has a list of probably a dozen Amoraim that were busy with preparing for Shabbos. Rav Safra, Machrech Reisha, Rav Amalech Shibuta, Rav Papa made the wicks. Everybody was busy with preparing for Shabbos. These Amoraim certainly were Kulei Torah. Why they stopped learning to burn off the hair from the animal? Isn't Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam? The answer is, but now there's a mitzvah of Achana for Shabbos. And indeed, the Mechaber in Reish Nun, Sif Aleph, quotes as La'alacha. The point is, learning is of utmost importance, but there's also a part two, or maybe that's part of Limud HaTorah, Al Manas Lasais. Our Tachlis HaChayim is Adam La'amal Yulad, no doubt about it. But La'amal is also the Rosh Tevis, Lilmaid Almanas Lasais. There has to be a time for mitzvahs. Someone says, listen, but I'm different. I'm Kulei Torah. I have no time for all these things. I'm learning, Yom V'Layla. So I told this person a Gemara. The Gemara says, Yavamas Daf Kuftes, Kala Oime Ein Loi Ela Torah. I'm Kulei Torah. Afilu Torah Ein Loi. Why? Because the pasuk says, Limadatem Vasisam. If you learn, it has to be Vasisam. And Rashi says a very sharp lashon. Afilu Torah ein loi. This Kulei Torah ain't. Afilu Torah ein loi. Einay b'mekabel schar limud. What the Steipler says is really a Gemara. That's not Gelen. The Chidah in Birkei Yosef Siman Lamed Ches Kamat says like the Steipler. He asks a question. Why don't we say Isaac a mitzvah, Patam and a mitzvah regarding someone who's learning? Because the Ikka Torah is Le'amed Zikal HaMaisa. V'chol Yikar Teferes Gedulas Talmud Torah Einay Ela Shemei V'Lidei Maisa. And therefore you can't say Isaac a mitzvah, Patam and a mitzvah if that's not what Torah is all about. So I hope it's very clear that there's a mitzvah of Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, but there has to be time for mitzvahs. The question, of course, that we have a lot of explaining to do is, how do we understand this? A person's a businessman. I know Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, that's the biggest char. How could I break for mitzvahs? How could I stop learning for mitzvahs if Torah is a bigger mitzvah? And if you're going to say, well, now that you have to do chesed, it's doicha limud HaTorah. That's wrong. That's a Torah b'dvar Mishnah. The Mishnah says Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. So I'm going to tell you a Yisai that the Steipler in that shtickle says, but you want to see the Bekitza and Ar Sameach and Talmud Torah Aleph Beis, the Birkei Shmuel, Kedushin Chav Zayin, the Kovet Shur, Mechelik Beis, Yutes Beis, and the Dibras Moshe, Kedushin, Mem Gimel, Gimel. All say the Yisai Bekitza, but the Steipler brings it out, I think, most clear. And if I'm allowed to add a little of a mushal, I think that could illustrate the point even better. Imagine you're sitting by a yeshiva dinner, and someone, a big nadvin, just gave $10 million, and he's building a building single-handedly. He's building the whole entire yeshiva. And people are speaking about his greatness, one speak after the other. He has a schus of eternity, and he does. And you're an Ehrlicher person, you're sitting there, and you're mamish envious of him. He built a whole yeshiva, he has a schus for nitzchias, hundreds of Eden learning every day. He's on Bacham learning Kail. And he thinks of, why didn't I give $10 million? Such a big schus. And it bothers you. I could have had that schus. No, why did you give $10 million? I think most people could answer it very simply. I don't have, right? And as I'm an einus. Really? That's the extent? If someone's sick in the hospital and he doesn't have a mincha b'tzibah, he's an einus. If I don't give $10 million, I'm an einus? But he did it. No, it doesn't make sense. Teretz is very pashut. There's no mitzvah to give $10 million. A person has to give ma'isa, a tenth or a 20th is even better. If this person that's sitting there envious makes $100 a week, and he gives $25 for tzedakah a week, he's a tzaddik tamim. And if this nadvin that gave $10 million is worth $200 million, so he's going to head to someplace other than Gan Eden, because he didn't give his ma'isa. He only gave 5%. So what's the pshat? There's no mitzvah to give $10 million. The mitzvah is to give as much as you can, 10 or 20%. That is exactly the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. The Rebbe Shalom gave us the mitzvah Talmud Torah K'neged Kulam, but the Rebbe Shalom gave us Taryag mitzvahs. The Rebbe Shalom gave us family and spouse and parents. And the Rebbe Shalom said there's a mitzvah of Talmud Torah every moment that you're not busy with any other Ratzon Hashem. Zok the Steipler, when someone has a mitzvah of chesed, there's no mitzvah of Talmud Torah. So when someone's home washing dishes, and he's thinking, is this bittul Torah? I could be learning. The answer is no. Because right now you have to do chesed at home. Charity begins at home, like the Rambam says. And right now that's the mitzvah that Baruch Shem wants from you. So it's not the pshat that washing dishes or chesed is doichet Talmud Torah. But rather when you're doing a mitzvah, there's no mitzvah of Talmud Torah. That's why it's pashit. There's no p'tur of oisik and mitzvah pata and mitzvah by Talmud Torah. Because right now, when you have a chiyav mitzvah, this is what you have to do. And this is, I think, an extremely important and helpful attitude. Baruch Hashem, I'm in yeshiva, we have Bachar, Masmidim, don't waste a moment. I'm Zoyachet to be with Balabatim like you, that appreciate every moment of Torah. And very often, a Masmid finds sometimes life to be very challenging. He loves learning, he learns every moment, and then he has to stop to help someone. And he finds it very stressful. He finds it an ordeal. I like to go back to learn. And that's not the Ratzon Hashem. A mitzvah should not be an ordeal, a mitzvah should be a pleasure. But how do you juggle? Talmud Torah K'neged Kulam, and here I am, I'm fixing someone's flat. Okay, he needs help, but, shouldn't I be doing better? The answer is, right now, your only mitzvah is chesed. I always tell the Bachim this. What's the most important thing in life? Now, that's a very hard question to answer, because you'll find this chazal and that chazal, mitzvah gedol liyas b'simcha tamid, what's the most important, the biggest thing? I told him, the answer is very simple. The most important thing in life is what the Baruch Shem wants from you right now. And that's the neshama of the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Avada Talmud Torah K'neged Kulam. But right now, the Baruch Shem wants you to do this mitzvah. That's the most important thing. I'll put that very much l'maisa. Imagine a bacha, a masmid, who's not looking for this. He's a real masmid. He's had Erev Yom Kippur. He has an hour or two before in the afternoon. He wants to prepare for Yom Kippur. He's out. He wants to go learn. And his mother calls out, Yossi, I need colored sprinkles for the Erev Yom Kippur cake. She goes, but there's sprinkles there. Yeah, but I'll cover Yom Kippur. I want to have colored sprinkles, not regular sprinkles. And he's in a turmoil. Talmud Torah is doicha kol Torah, all mitzvahs. It's zicha doicha colored sprinkles. But the Eved he eats with regular sprinkles. But if he has a Torah-dik attitude, right now the most important thing in his life is the mitzvah of kibud aim, to buy colored sprinkles. Now it's not the pshat colored sprinkles is doicha Talmud Torah. But right now in his olam of avodas Hashem, this is the only thing that exists. When he finishes buying his colored sprinkles, gay learn gesundheit. But if it's kibbud aim, which is a mitzvah, this is the most important thing in his world. So then you're not torn, you're not stressed, you do everything b'simcha. Before we apply this a little more lemaisa, there's one more cloud we have to clarify. So now that we know Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, but the Amanas Lasais is very, very important. So how do I approach that? Should I walk in the street looking for chesed? Because once I have chesed, then it's the most important thing. So this is the Gemara in Moed Katan Daf Tes. The basic cloud is a mitzvah she'ef shel asois yadei acherim. If someone else could help this fellow with his flat, let the other person do it, and you stay in learning. If someone else could do the chesed, you stay in learning. Why? It's very pashut. Because there has to be chesed, this person needs chesed, but your learning is more important. Narvas, if no one else could do it, this is what the Rebbe wants. But if there's someone else that's not learning anyhow, let the other person help and do chesed, and you stay in learning. In other words, when it's EF Shadei Acherim, it's your responsibility. Now, there's only chesed. But if someone else could do it, you'd be a better investor. You'd be a wise investor. And it's true, it's emes that this Yesod is also Yishalmi, a remarkable Yishalmi in Psachim Gimel Zayin. Bavo sent his son Rabbi Chanina to learn Torah in Tveria. And he got a report. They came and told him, your son is being Isaac in Chesed. In other words, they snitched on the son. He became an askin. So he sent him, Hamibli ein kvarim bekistrin shalach ticha l'Tveria? Play on words in the pasuk. There's not enough chesed in Kisrin. Why did I send you to Tveria? Not to become an askin. I wanted you to learn. And the Yishalmi explains, because there were other askanim in Tveria that could do those mitzvahs. I sent you to learn. Now is your time to learn. You're a bacha, learn. That's the klal. Chesed is gewaldig. Mitzvah is gewaldig. If it's efshad acherim, top priority, the Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, of course, is the deciding factor. And you'll look in Shulchan Aruch Reish Mem Vav Yud Ches, you'll see the entire shmuz in Mamish 1 Sif. The Mechaber begins Talmud Torah Shakol Keneged Kol HaMitzvahs, which is unusual because Pashit, that's Negeya Feschar. But the Mechaber brought it to remind us that that's first. The first klal is Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, and every day we say it in davening to remind ourselves. But, Zok the Mechaber, if you have a mitzvah, that's the Efshadei Acherim, then you stop learning, you pause from your learning to go and do the mitzvah. Now, very often a person is approached, he's in the middle of learning, someone needs help. And only this learner could help. No one else could do it. But it's not time sensitive. As he could do it after learning. Now, the truth is the mitzvah is Efshadei Acherim, but he could do it after learning. So if you look in the Goyin earlier in Bir Agro Reish Mem Chav Dalid, the Goyin learns it from Mamish in the Mechava that even though it's Efshadei Acherim, but if it can be done after learning, that's a kolshkein that's considered, as far as you're concerned, Efshadei Acherim. Not someone else. You finish learning, and then you do it later. In other words, the fact that it's the Efshadei Acherim, but if you could do it later, and don't pause in your learning. Another klal, which unfortunately you see the truth of it, someone asks a lamdin, a masmid, to help him. Other people could do it, but they're not going to do it. That's usually the case. The one that learns a lot is the bigger Bal Chesed. Bekitza, someone needs help, and the people that are not learning are too busy doing nothing to help him. But the masmid says, listen, no one else is going to do it. So it's really Efshadei Acherim, but bottom line, it's not going to happen. So Rav Ozan Chelik Yud Siman Yud Gimel says, Lamais, if it's not going to happen, then for you, unfortunately, it is Efshadei Acherim. I'm saying unfortunately because really other people should do it. But if no one's going to do it but you, even though they could do it, that's considered Efshadei Acherim. Now to apply this a little more specifically, let's start with the following shayla. Someone either in the middle of learning or is about to go learn, there's a knock on the door, someone needs a meal. He's either learning or about to go learn, and achnas zarch. No? So the emes says we know that achnas zarchim is a great mitzvah. God lachnas zarchim yoisim kabbalas pnei ashchinim. Chesed is one of the amudei oila. But then again, Talmud Torah is also one of Amudei Ha'olam. So what do? Pashut. This is a simple shot to call. If there's someone else home that could take care of this Oireyach, it's Efshai de Acherim, go learn, and the mitzvah will take place. If there's no one home, Zok the Chafetz Chaim in Avas Chesed Chele Gimel Perik Aleph. If there's no one home, this is a mitzvah that's Efshai de Acherim, and don't go learn or stop learning to tend to the guest. What to me was inspiring, the Chafetz Chaim added, let's say there's someone home, you have 2 children home, they can give this guest supper. But your children are all of 12 and 14, and the guest is 60 years old, he's almost 3 times their age put together. It's not respectful to have 2 children tending a chashuv guest. So even though it's physically efshei acherim, but if it's not appropriate for the guest, if it's not lechvi chvoida of the guest, stay home and take care of the guest. In other words, the mitzvahs have to be done properly. The Chafetz Chaim and Avos Chesed and Aleph Beis Sivkot and Dalet says if someone asks you for a loan during learning, that's efshei acherim. If you can't wait till after learning, stop learning and do the mitzvah. The general klal of Torah Chesed is very simple. The klal is efshei acherim, leave it for someone else. If it's efshei, you do it. There's a lot to say, but I think it would suffice if I quote a Gemara. In Rosh Hashanah Yud Ches, the Gemara says, Rabba and Abaya were descendants of Beis Eli that were cursed not to live beyond 40 years old. And indeed, Rava, the great Rabba, the great Amoyer Rabba, was nifta after 40 years old. But Abaya lived till 60. Manishtana, Zog the Gemara, Abaya the Osik b'Torah uva gemilas chasadim was zoich the extra 20 years. Now, I'm going to be moida, I cannot explain this Gemara, because I have no doubt that Rabba did chesed 100%. When he had to do chesed, he did chesed. We didn't just ignore chesed. So Rabba did the chesed, but Abaya somehow did more chesed. And the lesson that we learn from this Gemara is the Rebbeinu Shalom bleibt nicht schuldig. Again, I'm sure Rabba did nothing wrong, but somehow Abaya squeezed in more chesed, and Abaya lived the 20 years and made up the time, so to speak. You know, it's something that it's ironic, but you see it. For somehow, Gedolei Olam always have time for others. I still remember Moshe's Levaya, Moshe Zechariah Levracha, his son Reuven said that his father nit vergint for sich a sekunde. He didn't give himself an extra second. He was so disciplined in his time. Aber für jeden Nundik hat gehabt alle Zeiten der Welt. That's a trademark. That's a moifus of a gadol. They don't have a second to breathe, but somehow they have time for others. That's godless. That's living Torah. So chesed, you have time for others. Yefshei acherim is not bittul Torah. Don't be stressed and don't be torn. That's the Ratzon Hashem, the most important thing for right now. Davening, of course, is the same thing. We learned the Gemara on Shabbos, Daf Yud, Zman Torah l'chud, Zman Tefillah l'chud. But there's another cheshbon, never forget the Gemara, needed Daf Ayin Amud Beis. The Gemara asks, how could a person succeed in his learning? He has to daven. My kamash malon, ha b'loi ha loi sagi. Without davening properly, you won't succeed in your learning. So it's not just a heta, it's a tnai koidim lamaisa. There has to be a good davening for a good learning. The Mishnah Berurah quotes a rekeach. Now this is interesting. The rekeach was a rishon. The Mishnah Berurah in Kuf Vav Sivkot and Ches, and I quote the lashon of Mishnah Berurah: Hamavatul Torah mishum limud. He's too busy to learn, to daven. He's learning. Afil loimed im acherim. He's learning with others. He's giving a share. Kol hayoim. He's learning the whole day. Ke'ilu loy lamad. I mean, not just he's schus harabim, but kol hayoim. And what's the result? Ke'ilu loy lamad. Why? I guess that's the Gemara in Yevamos. Ein li ala Torah, afil Torah ein li. So there has to be time for learning and for davening. It's not bittul Torah to have time for davening. You know, sometimes we have to say this because people think otherwise, but that's really part of the life of an Erlich Yid. A friend of mine asked Rav Moshe, it was during a regular Seder in Yeshiva, and someone that he knew was in a critical condition, a chayla mesukin, could he take a minyan or two and say Tillim? So Moshe Ravada. You're stopping from learning, and Torah is the schus of Torah is keneged kulam, but there's a certain schus of Tillim. When a person is a chayla masukin, Tillim has special qualities. So it's not bittul Torah, it's the schus of chesed, the schus of tefillah, that this chayla desperately needs. Then he asks, how long should we say Tillim until people stop saying with kavanah? Then it's not gedavid, but basically you have to have time for others. The question we began with, should we stop learning for Kiddush Levana? So that's pashut. If this is the last opportunity for do Kiddush Levana, so you stop. It's a regular mitzvah, even though it's D'Rabbanan. The other question was a little more challenging, because really there was 2 days left. Maybe you should have more betachin, maybe you don't have betachin. So that was a subjective issue. Lamaisa, as I told you, there was time afterwards, but at least you understand that when there's a mitzvah to be done, that's the call of the hour. A parent needs help. So the son I can mean a bacha, can be a 50-year-old son that's zocheh to have parents. The klal is basically kibbud aim is a chamura sheba chamurais. And if a parent needs help, a son has to have time for the parents. We learned to Gemara Megillah, Gadol Talmud Torah, Yoisim kibbud aim, and the Mechaber in Reish Mem Yud Gimel quotes this. The answer is, if you know the Gemara, you should know the Pshat in the Gemara. The Gemara that says Talmud Torah is bigger than Kibbud Av is in a context that Yaakov Avinu, when he was away from his parents' home, when he was learning Hashem Ve'eva, he was not punished. Why not? There's no Kibbud Av, because since he went to learn, so he's part of him Kibbud Av. So, in other words, a person that wants to go learn in a yeshiva out of town, Eretz Yisrael, he's denied Kibbud Av, but that's the Ratzon Hashem, because God Talmud Torah. But, says the Pischei Tshuva in Reish Mem Sif Cotton Ches, if the child is home and the parent requests something, then what's the shayla? Kibbud Av is like any other mitzvah, if not more, it's chamur sheba chamurais. So you stop learning to do a mitzvah. The Gemara, that's when a person's away from home. He can't do Kibbud Av. But avada, Zokti Pischei Tshuva, you look in the Bir Agros, Sif Cotton Lamed Hey, Bekitza. If you look in Rabbi Yashv and Ashri Ish Yerdeh Chelik Beis Amit Shem Ches, they all say if a person, even though he's learning Basmada, and a parent needs something, if it can't wait, then of course it's not Bittul Torah, that's living Torah to stop learning to help a parent. There's a lot to say about this, but let me suffice with, I saw the Orchos Rabbeinu Chelik Gimel Kuf Ches. He quotes Reb Chaim Kanievsky that the Chazon Ish, Kayidu, his mother lived a long time, and B'Seif Yomeh, the Chazon Ish would travel every day and spend Chatzi Sho'a Yoisa with her. Besides the travel, in those days that was difficult before Bnei Brak was what it was today. I am certain he didn't speak a half hour of Rajban and Kiva Eg with her. What he spoke about, I don't know. But he spent a half hour or more besides the traveling. I need not tell you the Chazon Ish was a Masmir Otzim. But this is Kulei Torah. To learn Yom and V'layla, and to have time for parents. Now, the only question that is something to think about is, the father asks the son, I need help. So the son says, why can't Sarah do it? Sarah, of course, is not Chayav in Talmud Torah. Or why can Yossi? He's a little child, he's not learning anyhow. So then you could think, is that considered F-Shai Diacher? Maybe the girl could do it, the daughter, maybe the younger son could do it. So when I was a child, I thought that was a pretty good excuse. But now as a parent, I think, I guess you think, you get older, you get a little smarter. If the parent is sensitive to Limud HaTorah and yet asks the big boy to help, there must be a cheshbon. The parent doesn't have to give a din b'cheshbon, why it's Yefshtei Acherim. But if the parents are responsible and they ask the boy that's learning to help, there must be a cheshbon. Now, if the son is convinced without a shadow of a doubt that the parents are unaware that there's someone else home, no, then maybe you could, try to work it out diplomatically. But if a parent wants this child to help, that's considered Iyaf Sh'dei Acherim, and let him do the mitzvah b'simcha. Someone is learning, whether he's learning alone or with a group, and a Talmud Chacham walks in. There's a mitzvah deraisa, and they say, V'takum, v'darta b'nei zaken. I am learning. Teretz is, now you have to live Torah. And that's the Gemara. The Gemara in Kedushin, interesting Gemara. Lamed Gimel, Gemara says that a Talmud Chacham is not supposed to stand up for another a learner is not supposed to stand up for a Talmid Chacham during his learning. Abaya cursed that statement. Now, why did Abaya get such a sharp reaction? I'll tell you why. Because this is keneged our right attitude. What do you mean? You're learning and therefore you can't do a mitzvah? And taking Yeridei Reish Mem Daled Yud Aleph, even when he's Isaac B'Torah, he has to stand up for a Talmid Chacham. In other words, learning is important, but now is covered at Torah. The same is true, someone is learning, and the Gabbai decides to take the Sefer Torah from this base medrash to the different room. So the halach is a chiyuv, pash the chiyuv deraisa to stand up for a Sefer Torah. The Gemara learns it out from standing up for a Talmid Chacham, so it's pash it's a mitzvah deraisa. Even though you're learning, so stand up, continue learning, but stand up. Now, of course, the Gabbai should try to be sensitive to do it. If he has to move the Sefer Torah or mish the Sefer Torah, do it not when people are learning, do it before or afterwards. But at the end of the day, if you're learning and there's a chiyuv to stand up for a Sefer Torah or for a Talmid Chacham, do the mitzvah b'simcha. A sensitive question is, we just had the Yom Tov of Sukkot, and you notice people that spend a lot of time, hours or days, finding the most beautiful esrog, and there are other people that they come into the store, I want an esrog that's naki from bittul Torah. Some want an esrog that's naki from any blot fleck, and they want an esrog that they shouldn't have to spend too much time. Now, avada and avada, that's a wrong expression. Looking for a nice esrog is not bittul Torah. What they meant to say was that I found a beautiful esrog. Is there a nice one? Probably. But this is a mahuda, a miyaitza. This has a hidda mitzvah. Let me go back to learning. So, which attitude is right? So that's very tricky. Because avada, there's a mitzvah to do every mitzvah properly. There's a chiyuv. And you look in the Rav in Hilchos Talmud Torah, Daled Gimel. Avada, you have to stop learning for a mitzvah. But you have to stop. Also, he says, L'kayimim kilchasan, b'chol t'nayeyim, b'dikdukeyim, b'dikdukei seifim, b'tachlis hashleimus. Kizeh kol adam. The Ravs, you have to do a mitzvah perfectly. And then go back to your learning. So if someone's looking for a choice esrog that's not bittul Torah, that's kiyam mitzvah. But then again, you could understand why some people say, I found a beautiful esrog. Do I have to look for another one, and I don't have a seif? The Chut Hashani of Nissen Karelis quotes his uncle, the Chazinish, this is in Shabbos Aleph, Amud Nun Vav, that didn't spend so much time finding the nice esrog, he found the beautiful esrog, and back to learning. There's Nidbru in Yud Gimel, Mem Gimel says this as well. In other words, you find a beautiful esrog that's Mehuda L'chol Hadeyis, and back to learning. Reb Zundel Salanta used to say that all the Chumris and the Zehiris don't come close to a Vorah Torah. Now that's something you have to understand, but it's true. You want to be machmir? So, hasmada digres to frumkeit. So if someone could find a choice esrog and go back to learning, fine. If someone feels that he can still find better, he's not satisfied with this, it's not bittul Torah to look weiter. If someone's not learning anyhow, then fakert, that's the time to show ahavas mitzvahs and look, find the most beautiful esrog. A very common question, which today is probably one of the most common questions, is you're learning, whether you're learning alone, with a chavrusa, or with a shir, and there's a minyan that's davening. And you could hear shachris, mincha, ma'ariv, kaddish, kedusha, everything. Do you have to pause to answer during learning? So really this could be a shir for itself, but I think, I think it should be quite simple. Yes, it's true, the Mechaber in Kuf Chafei says that if you hear Kedusha, even though you davened already, you're mechayiv to answer a second time. It's a mitzvah deraisa, v'nigdashti b'soich b'nei Yisrael. Yes, it's true, the Mechaber in Reish Tezvav Si Bei says that if you hear someone saying a bracha, you have to answer Amen. It's a chiyuv. Oy ba'zoi, it should come out that I'm learning, and I hear Kedusha, or Kaddish, I have to answer. You davened already, but now there's a chiyuv to answer. And that's why you'll find a number of poskim that say, you're learning, very nice. But now they're saying, Kedusha, answer Kedusha, and go back to your learning. And l'chayr, you could even add as a raya, the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Yud. You're learning, very nice, but now is man tefillah l'chud. So answer to what you hear. And that's taka a mahalach that I saw a number of poskim say. But I also found there are a number of poskim that are mekel. And basically the cheshbon is, Avada you're mechuyev to answer Kaddish and Kedusha even though you already davened. But who said that applies even if you're learning now after davening? Zok Rav Ozen Chelik Tes Siman Mem Gimel. I just answer Amen, and what's the problem? It's one word. He quotes our Gemara in Brachas Nun Gimel that even Amen to the Bracha Moiriya Eish is Bittul Beis Medrash. No. But we could say certainly if it's not just one Amen. It's Yesh Rabba, and then it's Baruch, and then it's Chadas Hashatz, and then it's Ashiv Olitzian, and it's a whole davening. But the emphasis is another concern. Not only just there's no chiyuv, but maybe there's a problem with answering. And I'll tell you, it's a very practical problem. Someone's learning, and he tries to juggle both. He's learning. He's also answering the Chazar Shatz to Mincha. Okay, good. Go to Rabbi, you just answered Amen. Which bracha did you answer Amen to? I have no idea, but I know it's Chazar Shatz. Well, the Shulchan Aruch calls that Amen Yisayma. He said Amen to a bracha, you don't know what it is. So what's he going to do tomorrow? He's going to concentrate to listen to what bracha is being said. Now, when you concentrate on Chadas Hashatz, you're not concentrating on the Gemara. So the Sambas Chaim in Siman Shinder Dalet says, if you're going to answer, and it's going to end up bringing Amen Yisayma, so you're not investing your time properly. The point is, Avadi is supposed to answer Kaddish Kedusha as much as you can. But if it's distracting your learning, maybe that's not the chiyuv. In other words, there's no chiyuv to re-answer if you're learning. But there's another cheshbon that I think we really applies to everything we learned today. The Rambam, as I mentioned, and the Shulchan Aruch quotes him in Reish Manvav Sif Yud Ches, says if someone has a mitzvah, so he should stop learning. The Yachzul Tayrasai. So I say it in Rambam. You finish the mitzvah, go back to your learning. Now we know there's no extra word, there's no extra letter in the Rambam. The Rambam says 12 letters, 2 words, V'yachzul Tayrasai. So all the Naisikelim wonder, what's the Chiddush? Avada, you finish learning, you go back to learn. You finish your mitzvah, go back to learning. The answer, and the Rav Shulchan Aruch seems to imply this, Avada, you're mechuyev to stop learning, do a mitzvah. But that's only if after finishing the mitzvah, you're going back to learning. Let's say the person gets distracted, or the mitzvah is so overwhelming, he doesn't go back to learning. The Rav says this in a Chiddush Pella, but the Rav says in Hilchos Talmud Torah, Ben Azai spoke about the greatness of having a family. Yet Ben Azai never got married. Why not? How could that be? So the Rav, Ben Azai felt that if he's going to get married, he won't be able to go back to his learning. Avad he can learn, but he can't go back to his full involvement in learning. And it wasn't V'yachzul L'Teirasai. You have to be a Rav Shulchan to say that. But anyhow, this is a metzias that anybody who learns during Chazaras Hashatz or during anything knows. If you're going to answer Chazaras Hashatz, you're not going back to your learning. You'll juggle and end up with a little of everything, or basically nothing. Either Chazaras Hashatz or learning. Rav Moshe in the Dibros also says this in Mem Gimel Dal, that if you can't learn when after doing the mitzvah, then you're not mechuyev to do the mitzvah. Rav Sternbuch in Chelik Beis Ayin Hey says certainly if someone or either a group or even chavrusa learning in the back and they're not part of the tzibur, they don't even have to answer the kedusha because it's not like they're being mavaza the kedusha. It's clear they're learning upstairs or downstairs or behind the mechitza and they're doing something that's more important. They finished davening, now they're learning. So again, I saw the Shar Matzana Malacha in Siman Chaf, Sif Katan Aleph says the same thing as well. And especially for those that don't have that much time to learn. If this is their kviyas itim l'Torah, this is their mitzvah. You know, the Yosef Oimitz, page 266, he says, if you're learning a whole day, and now there's a mitzvah to do, so you stop learning for a mitzvah. But if this is your only learning during your day, if this is your kviyas itim, then you don't stop for a mitzvah. Because this is a mitzvah also. Besides Talmud Torah, this is the mitzvah kviyas itim. If you're not going to have kviyas itim, so Torah matayala. So for those that time is limited, you can't jeopardize that share that you have. So again, I can't say all agree, but to me it comes out that if someone cannot answer and go back to his learning, or cannot focus on both, especially if he's sitting in a different place, he could ignore the davening around him, Learn Gesundheit, as long as you daven first, now is man Torah l'chud, to focus on learning. Of course, it's much better to find a quiet place to learn, that you don't have to have this nisayon. But if it's not shaykh, there is this heta of now is man Torah l'chud. Rav Gestetten in Lahiris Nasim, your Aleph Dalet has a shaila which is very negeya. In the yeshiva, there's one class that the Chreis is davening mincha, or there's making a siyam, they're saying Kaddish, and the class next to them are learning. Does the class that hears Kaddish or davening has to answer? He says no. He says now your chiyuv is learning and not answering. We have this question, a person's learning, a Rebbe's giving a shir, a Magachir is giving a shir, and there's thunder or lightning. Do you have to pause to make the bracha? No, this is a mitzvah that you have a chiyuv to do, so you have to make the bracha. The Dabatzina Rav, Chelik Beis, Simon Yud says it's for Dava Pashit, and to me a shtickle raya is the Gemara that we began in brachas. They're learning and they brought ner. Now the truth is ner is not ma'akiv, ein machzir and achareh, but once you have it, make a bracha. So lightning and thunder, if you hear it, if you see it, say the bracha and go back to learning. Rav Shlomo Zalman Alicha Shleim, a Perik Tes, who says you're allowed to continue learning and ignore the Davar Shebekdusha, he does add, which is kedai to mention, let's say they finish davening, the minyan is over. One fella comes late, but he feels guilty, he missed davening, he decides to make a Haicha Kedusha. So that's wrong, because you're staring 9 people that are learning for your Haicha Kedusha. Who said that's more important? See, this is fakir. This is your problem, you came late, so find a different minyan or wake up early. But to disturb 9 people from learning, that's Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. So you won't have Kedusha. Hopefully tomorrow you'll get up on time. The question about tzedakah during learning, this is, to me, a very challenging question. Besides the fact that tzedakah is a chashuv mitzvah, and there's a lav of not giving tzedakah, but I think most of all, there's a tremendous bein adam chaverei. A person that's collecting is broken enough, his esteem is at an all-time low. If you tell him, no, I'm not now, it's very painful. But then again, you have to make a decision. So this is pashut without a suffix. If someone is learning privately, and an ani comes to him, about you have to stop to give tzedakah. This is living out like a yid. Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, but right now your mitzvah is Pesayach Tiftach. The only question that we're going to discuss is if there's a shir going on, and it's very disturbing. A collector that goes from person to person disturbs the whole shir. We see this sometimes in real life. So that's the question, is there any heta of, because it's Torah de Rab. So I saw both Rav Vosn and Chelik Yud, Kuf Nun Zayin, and listen, Karelitz and Chut Hashani, in Yom Tov, Amit Shinun Beis, both say that this usually is a mitzvah that's efsha in a different time. He could come before the shir or after the shir. Rav Nissen Karelitz was talking about a shir. Rav Vosna was talking about a koilel. He comes to the koilel, middle of learning, and disturbs the whole koilel. Come at the end of the koilel and stand by the door and collect from everybody. Teretz is for the collector's convenience, he wants to come during the Seder. So both Rav Vosna and Yabad L'chaim, Rav Nissen Karelitz, both say that's efsha, not efsha but someone else, efsha in a different time. And they say, tell him to come before or afterwards, but not to disturb the rhythm of the entire shir. Now, of course, you have to do that with sensitivity. To chase him away, is something that can be very painful. So you have to be very careful when to apply this. But if indeed the mitzvah could be done after the learning or before the learning, this would be a form of efsha al yedei, a different time. If it's not a question, if it can't be done any other time, like Rav Vosna himself says, if the person needs money now, it can't wait. So that's and then of course you have to stop learning. Now again, we're not minimizing the importance of tzedakah, but we have to realize that this is the time of learning. Sometimes I even heard that people don't go to certain shiurim because there's always collectors coming, so they're not going to learn their kviyas. You have to see the big picture. I'll tell you a fascinating shayla. This is in Yonah D'Yayim more. The mitzvah of Ner Chanukah used to have a very limited time. Achatich l'regelman ashuk had be'erach a half hour in some time, and after this, you weren't allowed to do it. Since we started lighting indoors, and it's for Bnei Habayis, the mitzvah goes as long as people are still up. The question that many yeshivas have, many kohelim have, a typical yeshiva gedola has Seder going till 7 or 8, a kohelet goes till 7 or 8. The question is, should you stop to light in the optimal time, which is very subjective, but let's say 5:30, 6 o'clock, or no. Look around, most balabat, most working people don't light 5:36 because they rely on the Ramah that the Zman is Kol HaLayla. So they finish working, they go home, they light. Why should Punkti yeshivas stop at 5:30? Yeah, they have all the time in the world, they can do what they want. Maybe they should also go till 7, 8 o'clock. Now, you might think this sounds outlandish, but I'll tell you the Meiri, one of the Rishonim in Shabbos Chaf Aleph Amud Beis, writes that the Bizman Hazeh, the Zman goes until Amoid HaShachar, as long as someone's up. And he says, V'chein nehagim b'nei ha'yeshivas, hadlik achas she'oimdim bebeis hamedrash. After learning, they did lit Chanukah licht. I don't think they lit close to Amoid HaShachar. But when they finished learning, they went home and they lit. Now, this is a sensitive question, because you might say, wait a minute, but if the Zman, the optimal Zman is, whatever, 5:30 or 6, so that's the right time. But then again, if you leave 5:30, you're losing out on 2 hours of learning. Is that Hiddah Mitzvah? So maybe the learning of 2 hours is Daicha, the Hiddah Mitzvah. The Mekadesh Yisrael and Chanukah Kuf Memov quotes what the Satmarav used to say, that really what we should do Chanukah, the Satmarav said this, one bacha should light and be moitzi the entire yeshiva mikadadin. They shouldn't stop learning for Hadlakas Ner Chanukah. But the bacha won't listen, so he didn't try to do it. But the Yisayid Adav is the mitzvah of Chanukah is to counter Lashkicham Torasecha, not to become one big Lashkicham Torasecha. So again, whether you do it or not, but at least you understand where it's coming from. Avada Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. And if you could do the mitzvah afterwards, you have both. But some say, no, if the mitzvah is to do bizman lechatchila, that's Ratzon Hashem. And of course the eighth is to go back to learning afterwards. But at least you know the different minhagim regarding that mitzvah. Another question, which is also important to mention, chasanis. To stop learning Besashir, to go to a chasan. Now, Pasha, this is the Gemara in Ksubas, Daf Yud Zayin. If it's Yavshli Acherim, Mevatlan Talmud Torah for Achnosas Kala. But the question, of course, is, today, Baruch Hashem, Halavai Vaita, there are many chasanas, sometimes more than one a night. Torah Matehayala. I heard from older Yidden in the Shtetl, in the Haim, there was a chasana 10 times a year. Not more. Today, there's 1 or 2 chasanas every night. In Halicha Shloim, in Yud Gimel, Hora 22, there's a Mordecai Maisa that really captures the problem here in this sugya. Rav Shlomo Zalman had a shaila in Yichus about a certain bacha, if he was a Yid or not. And he couldn't be machriya. So he sent the shliach to go to Rav Moshe in America to ask Rav Moshe the shaila. And while you're there, ask Rav Moshe also, what do you do about the shaila of stopping to learn at night to go to chasanis or le'olenu to levayis? You learn the Gemara, and the Gemara says, unless there's shishim riba by levayah, you have to go to levayah. So what do you do about the mitzvah of levayis and chasanis? So the shliach went to Rav Moshe, and the shaila about, and Rav Moshe was very sick then, he was laying down in bed. The shaila that he about yichus, Rav Moshe answered laying in bed. When he asked him the second shaila about chassid and levayis, Rav Moshe sat up and said, that's a shvera shaila. Psul yichus, Rav Moshe was able to handle lying down. And Rav Moshe said, I have the same struggle. Because the Maisa, the Gemara says, Mavatlan Talmud Torah. So Rav Moshe says, the best thing is not find out about these things. Halavai. Shlomo Zalman wanted to say that since the chassid or levai is called for this time and it's late, so you're stopping to learn to sit around. That is no heter. Others say that the mitzvah is hachnosas kala, which means when they bring in the kala to the chuppah. Who said to sit by a festive Suda when there's nice music in the background? That's Daicha Talmud Torah, Meichet Eisa. And I would add that if you don't know the Chassan Kala and you're not going to go over to the Chassan Kala, you're going out to the Mechutten, that's not Achnosas Kala. And also, what's the Yachzal Torah? If someone has limited time, Torah Matehayoleh, family Matehayoleh, sleep Matehayoleh, I mean, there's so many things we have to do, and just the Chasanas are, Baruch Hashem, overwhelming. So a person has to have his priorities. I will tell you, Rav Shach Zechron Levracha was Masakin once in Panovich Yeshiva, that for a chasana, only 10 bachim are allowed to go. And this caused quite an uproar. So someone, I don't know why, but he wrote to Rav Vosna in Chelik Zayin, Reish Gimel, is this a correct takana? I don't know why he did that, but that's what he asked Rav Vosna about Rav Shach. And Rav Vosna was very confident that was the right decision. He said, Ramaisa, he has enough Mesamchim, enough people by the chasana. And he says, the mitzvah chashuva ad ma'oi to go to a chasana, but it has to be b'mida of a minyan. And therefore, yafa don, v'yafa tikun, Rav Shach, 10 bachim per chasana. I don't think this is going to happen in our times. One thing I can tell you, I want to ask for a Pam Zechayno Levracha. If a person's invited, does he have to go to every chasana? So he told me, are there enough mesamchim? I said, oh, there are probably 100, bachim dances. So that's efshai di'achayim. The person will miss me, he invited me. That's not considered efshai di'achayim. If there are enough mesamchim, then a person should feel confident that that's not his chiyuv. A lavaya is more of a shayla, because in Shulchan Aruch, in Shin Samach Aleph, it says beferish that unless there is shishim ribui by the lavaya, shishim ribui, then you have to go. So again, the only hatta might be that the chiyuv is only when there's lavaya sameis, when they're escorting the mace. Hespedim is not part of the chiyuv. Or like Rav Shlomo Zalman suggested, if it's late, halavai, we shouldn't have to deal with this suffix, but this is something to think about. Nichem Avelim is a little of a easier question, because there's no chiyuv of shishim ribui. So if someone feels that it's yefshdei achayim, his presence has to be there, then how do you stop learning? But stam to travel, today Nichem Avelim is in Muncie and Lakewood, or vice versa. It's 4 hours of learning, or 4 hours of life. A person has to make a cheshbon if it's really the chiyuv or not. Let me leave you with one more shayla. I think I would be remiss in not mentioning it. Imagine the following scenario. A person and his young son, 12-and-a-half-year-old, are walking out to learn at night. And the wife says, I need help. I need one of you. Either you, father, or son. One of you have to stay, one go learn. Who has priority? Who should go learn? Who should stay home help the mother? So we would say, if the child helps the mother, it's kibbutz. Isn't that be first? But if you say that, you might have forgotten the Gemara, l'chayra. In Shabbos Kuf Yutes, Gemara says, Al tigu b'mashichi elu tenoike shel beis rabbim. A child that learns his Torah keeps the world. Ein ha'olam miskayim b'shvil hevel tashbar of tenoike shel beis rabbim. Rav Papa said, but what about my learning? Your learning is important. But the hevel of she'ein b'chet, that's the kiyam ha'olam. And that's why when the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt in Herav Yameinu, we'll stop learning forbidden Beis HaMikdash, but not the children. It comes out that the father should go taka and help and let his young child go learn, because he's in Hevel she'ein b'chet. You'll say, my son, 12 years old, he has plenty of Averis. It's not true. He has Averis, but as the Rav in Shulchan Aruch and Aleph Gimel says, that under Bar Mitzvah is considered Tashbar, because not responsible for his Averis. And this is something that we have to realize the importance of learning of children. We underestimate. They're not learning a Shver Rashba. But their learning is so important that it's Doicha, even Binyan Beis HaMikdash. The Gewaldes Chus that our Rebbeim have of teaching Tashbar, the Achrayas that we as parents or as Rebbeim and Alim to make sure the children learn Torah, this is the most important limud HaTorah. The world is miskayim on Torah. Today we live in a world that kulam keneged Talmud Torah. There's so much going on. But we have to realize Talmud Torah keneged kulam, and that's certainly the kiyam ha'olam. I would talk to you all.
Shem Egan Shir, I'd like to thank Rav Smith for today's shir. Rav Smith will be giving a sikkim of the shir in 5 to 10 minutes. Rav Hananya ben Akashem, Rav Tzakar Shbov, Rav Zakeh, says, Yisrael, figure Hebel, and Torah and Mitzvos, Shnem, Alenor, Chofetz, Aman, Tzidkei, Yaglu, Torah, V'yadeh.
Thank you. Yeah, good. You go stick to Chasanis? You do?
I know what you do. You don't go. But Mike came. But me came.
Go ahead. Yes. He's right. The fact that he's that's what science is. That's it. Is what we have. Torah is nitcha because it's the endless need. This is your easy. So that's like a regular mitzvah. Why is the mitzvah of helping a lead more important? Your chiyuv. We see him of the light as a chiyuv. Wearing tefillin every day. Shabbos and mitzvah mayim. Minimum of your life. And though you're not yet with Krishna, there's a chiyuv to learn. Your mitzvah of it shouldn't be, at the end of the day, it shouldn't be on the We're ready, we're ready. Okay, Yeah, we did. Rav Osna, and Rav Nisgarelitz. He said, yeah. Oh, that was Pasha. Okay, I'll let it. That was Pasha. If you, yeah. Yeah, ready. You ready?
Rabbi said, Sikkim.
Just a short summary. Learn Torah Be'ez Hashem. There's no doubt about it. I mean, this is Talmud Torah is a class for itself. Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam Kol Mitzvah Yiseh Shel Torah are outweighed by one word of Torah. And Tzarech Adam Ma'od Lechabei Bes HaTorah. The most important chesed for Klal Yisrael, the most important klal work, the most important national security. The Yid sitzt and learn Torah. And that's why there's the Chaim of Bittul Torah, even one word, even Asusa, even Birchas Haner. But what's also equally important, Almanas Lasais. Torah has to be Almanas Lasais to the extent that if someone learns and doesn't do mitzvahs, mutav, it's better he wouldn't have been born. And that's the challenge, the paradox of Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. Avada Torah is more than all mitzvahs, but you have to have time for all mitzvahs. So the hezbollah that we explained is that the mitzvah of Talmud Torah begins when there's no other chiyuv, when there's no other mitzvah, there's no other chesed, when there's no other Ratzon Hashem. And the most important thing in your life is this moment of Ratzon Hashem. So it could be buying sprinkles, it could be helping fix someone's flat, it could be washing the floor l'kavod Shabbos, but a person should always do mitzvahs b'simcha. The Ratzon Hashem is right now the tzivoy of this moment. And that's why if someone says, Ein li ela Torah, afilu Torah ein li. It's, Rashi says, there's no schar for limud, because limud has to be amanas lasais. The basic klal for juggling is efsha di acherim, let them do it and you stay in learning. If it's efsha di acherim, then you have to stop, and it's not bittul Torah, that's living Torah. If someone could do it after Seder, and only he could do it, but he could do it after learning, so then do it after learning. That's considered, right now, efsha ba'ofen achem. If others could physically do it, but won't do it, and only you could do it, so that's considered efsha di acherim. Hachnasas orchim or Torah, the answer is simple. If someone else could take care of this guest respectfully, sufficiently, so let them do it. If no one could do it, then close the Gemara, and then G'day Hachnasas orchim, more than limud Torah. Chesed Torah, again the same deciding factor. Remember the incredible lesson of the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Yud Ches, Abaye and Rabbah. Abaye somehow found more time for Chesed, and the Breishleim bleibt nishuldig. Davening, of course, has priority. Zman Torah l'chud, Zman Tefillah l'chud, and Tehillim for Chayla is also appropriate when it's a efsha ba'ofen acher. Kiddush Levana is enough to stop learning unless it's shaykh in a different time. Kibbut of Ha'im, you're allowed to go learn Chutz Le'ir and not have Kibbut of. That's Gadol Talmud Torah Yosim Kibbut of. But if a parent asks a child for something, a child, whether he's a young child or an older bacha or a 50, 60-year-old child who's a grandfather, we have to have time for parents. That's part of the mitzvah of Kibbut of Ha'im, and that's Daycha Talmud Torah, because now the only thing that's important in your world is Kibbut of Ha'im. Standing up for a Talmud Chacham, a Sefer Torah during learning Avada is a chiyuv. You could do both, learn as you stand up, but to find time for Dalad Minim, some spend more time, some less time, but the ik is to do Ratzon Hashem. If to answer Dvarim Shebekdusha during learning is a very difficult issue, if it doesn't disturb the learning, then of course you should, but very often you can't do both, and then you could sit in the back or upstairs or on the side and just focus on the learning and even ignore the Kedusha, because now is Man Torah l'chut for you. It's better to find a place, you don't have to come on to these shilas, but basically if you're learning and it's disturbing, you don't have to answer. To give tzedakah during learning or during davening, if now is the only time to give, avad you have to give, it's not bittul Torah, it's not bittul tefillah, you give and you go back to your davening or your learning. If it disturbs the entire shir and the collector could come before or after the shir, then we have a klal that's efsha ba'ofen acher, and then they should make a takana only after or before the learning. Ner Chanukah bizman, We see two minhagim. I think most people do stop for the lighting of the optimal zman, but those that wait till 7:30, 8 o'clock, they rely on the ikazman is kol halayla and Talmud Torah keneged kulam. Chasen is Levaya and Nichem Avelim are all very challenging shilas, but basically if it's the Yefshdei Acher, it's for the mitzvah, if for the Simchas Chasen V'Kala, or Loyaleinu or Levaya and Nichem Avelim, Avada, for then we say now is the time to do Chesed, now is the time to realize that Mevatlan Talmud Torah for Chasen is Levayas. If someone could minimize the time or choose which are Yefshdei Acherim, which are Yefshdei Acherim, Avada, that seems to be the right thing. The limud of Tinoike Shel Beis Rabbim has extreme importance. Rebbe that teaches Tinoike Shel Beis Rabbim has an extraordinary schus. Parents that make sure their children learn at that age is a special schus. And basically, we have to remember Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. Unfortunately, in a world that Kulam Keneged Talmud Torah, our job is to Chazarain Ma'oid Tzarech L'Chabei Bes HaTorah.